What's good? I'm Roup Reviews, and today I'll be reviewing The Mandalorian and Grogu. The Mandalorian and Grogu is a 2026 action-adventure film based on the Mandalorian TV show. It takes place in the Star Wars universe, which, if you didn't know, is a series of movies and TV shows that continues to grow immensely. The director is Jon Favreau, who co-created the TV show with Star Wars pioneer Dave Filoni. Favreau and Filoni are credited with bringing live-action Star Wars projects to television, influencing later shows like Andor and the Book of Boba Fett. The Mandalorian and Grogu stars Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin, aka the Mandalorian, Jeremy Allen White as Rada the Hutt, and Sigourney Weaver as Ward. The movie also has a surprising cameo from Martin Scorsese, who kind of just comes out of nowhere as a shopkeeper on the planet Shikari. I was glad Jon Favreau steered away from snagging A-list stars for these roles. I can only imagine how many actors would love to be in a Star Wars movie, and the fact that this film wasn't scattered with cameos was refreshing. The specific characters of the Mandalorian and Grogu also stood out as high strengths of the film. They both have an entertaining and unique chemistry that works in various different ways. A quote that stood out to me while watching the film was when the Mandalorian said, "The old protect the young, then the young protect the old. This is the way." This quote was the perfect way to wrap up the series of scenes that came before it and acts as a short outline to what makes their characters work so well. Grogu is still young, and although he still can't speak, he shows early wisdom in many different ways. On the other hand, the Mandalorian has been trapped his whole life, and while he has the knowledge to make smart decisions on the battlefield, he lacks the beauty of life, having a family, caring for people. Both characters are learning something from each other constantly, which makes for an interesting and satisfying character dynamic. The plot of the film takes place after Return of the Jedi and follows the Mandalorian and Grogu as they pick up a mission from the New Republic. The mission is to find an unnamed Imperial officer who has been in hiding for the past few years. To learn more information, Mando and Grogu must seek out the help of the Hutts, who have information about their unnamed bounty. Before that information is given, though, they must save Rada the Hutt from Shikari, a planet known for being crime-ridden with a nasty underground relating to salt exports. One of the only times I actually really laughed during the film was when the Hutts showed Mando a picture of Rada the Hutt, and it was just like a baby picture from the Clone Wars. I thought that was a pretty funny. It just was so random. Just was kind of like, what is going on? Especially because Rada the Hutt is a lot bigger now, and he's an absolute unit in this movie. Rada the Hutt was voiced by Jeremy Allen White, who's a huge name right now in Hollywood. I also think he did a fairly good job, and Rada was a good character. The effects that were used to create Rada were a tad bit unsettling at first, but once I got used to them, they were not bad at all. Rada was also an unexpectedly intricate character, and I easily saw a lot of similarities between him and Grogu. They both are young and full of life, and Rada almost felt like a translator between Grogu and the Mandalorian. It was interesting to hear an outside perspective on Grogu and the Mandalorian's relationship, especially from somebody like Rada, who did not have the smoothest relationship with his father, Jabba the Hutt. Some low points of the film were pointless fight scenes, wonky music, and lack of depth. There were some scenes that felt like they could have been taken out of the film, mostly the ones where random creatures would appear and take up 2 to 3 minutes of runtime. This resulted in the most boring moments of the film, where you would know that the Mandalorian would beat them and then we'd be right on to the next scene. My second criticism was the music on the planet Shikari. There was just some crazy music and it just kept playing. I understood the music for that crime underworld setting, but the music would continue to play even when the setting shifted. That wonky music disappointed me a little bit just because Ludwig Göransson was the composer, and he's had some great projects over the past few years. My final criticism about the movie was the lack of depth. I thought Sigourney Weaver's character Ward could have been held by a different actor, and she almost felt like she was just there just to be there. I like the idea of her character, but she was so forgettable other than that. Following in her footsteps was a list of unknown actors as well, and although, again, I like the idea of that anti-A-list cast, I thought they just were not good. In situations like this, it is common for the script to be the problem, which featured pointless explanations on what characters are there to do and why they're there to do it. But either way, I think the cast and crew just could have done a better job at finding diamonds in the rough, even if it was only for the smaller characters. There's also nothing that stood out about this film and made it unique to the Star Wars universe and the Star Wars movies we're seeing today. And while I do agree with the call to stick with what made The Mandalorian and Grogu fascinating to begin with, I do think a change of pace would have been nice. Alright, so I'm going to stack the spoiler alert on here for the last segment of this review. And if you'd like to see my final score, go to the timestamp posted here. The Mandalorian and Grogu was made up of some pretty epic action sequences, most notably the opening scene in Din Djarin's fight with the dragon snake. That dragon snake was genuinely terrifying, and along with the suspense and build up to that showdown, it made for a pretty amazing sequence. I could confidently say that I was on the edge of my seat during that, and I also thought the Mandalorian having his helmet taken for that fight was very clever. It just added to the suspense and worsened the Mandalorian's position from the jump. Another scene I loved was a scene where Grogu was tending for the Mandalorian. This showed a unique angle of Grogu that was lacking in the show, aside from that corny episode with Luke Skywalker. And I know that this series of scenes might have come off as boring and corny to a lot of fans, but all I really have to say to that is that it's called The Mandalorian and Grogu for a reason. If you didn't want to see Grogu, then man, don't go to the movie, you know? In all, The Mandalorian and Grogu is a fun, action-packed film that is a great time for the whole family. It features exhilarating sequences and cute facial expressions from Grogu, but most of all, it stuck to the ideals that made the TV show so likable to begin with. Sure, it'll never have the depth like Andor or Rogue One, or the influence of Empire Strikes Back or Revenge of the Sith that's needed to launch itself higher than a 7 out of 10, but it should be respected for initially changing the way we see Star Wars. And by that I mean from the big screen to the television. And I guess what's cool about this is that it's finally come full circle. I kind of already said it, but I'm thinking an exact 7 out of 10 on this one. Nothing more, nothing less. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Those who know me know I'm like a huge Star Wars nerd, and I love the timelines and the stories and the influence that it's had on science fiction movies that we see today. And I was super excited to see this movie and share my review with you guys. Expect a Rogue One review within the next couple of weeks. I've been kind of craving another rewatch of Rogue One. I've seen it a few times, and it really is one of my favorite Star Wars movies, so I can't wait to watch that and share my opinions on that movie with you guys. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the review again, and thank you for watching.